been practicing their Adorabus spells? Just like you showed me, Lulu! Go, Pix! You fly on, you cute little smush ball!
Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra spoiler. Today we have Lulu, which we kind of expected in the last few days of spoilers, but it's finally nice to have that confirmation. So, kind of as expected in this new SMORC support, aggro, whatever it's going to be, she comes down on turn 3, which is great because it's right after you play Tiari to buff her. So we got this like really nice 1, 2, 3, and I guess even 4 if you play Mentor after, curve that lines up very well for what this archetype wants to be doing. So let's have a look at Lulu and kind of what she does to start this off, right? So she has support, which is, again, great for her own level up condition, and also thinking about Taric. Taric has to see 7 cards targeted and or supported, so it makes sense. But she's going to grow something to a 4/4. So the first thing I want to acknowledge, like, right away, if we think about the witch that we saw yesterday, right, just the 1/1 elusive that has support, gives something +1 in quick attack, turning that to a 4/4 and just suddenly having an elusive 4/4 on, you know, that turn 3 attack is going to be pretty strong. Like, right, anytime that you're giving elusives a free buff is going to be strong. And they did that in the trailer video for her as well. So kind of first and foremost, I definitely see this, you know, being just another way that elusives are going to go the distance. Or if you have something like a cheap overwhelm unit, right, like the Stomper, which we'll get to at the end, some other ways to kind of cheat that extra benefit of, you know, giving it the extra stats. Now, again, also keep in mind that if it's going to grow to a 4/4, if they've taken a couple points of damage, it's also a way to make sure that your units are a little bit more sticky, that they're staying around turn after turn and being able to attack. So overall, you know, 3 HP on 3 might not be the greatest amount, but if you have either Tiari or just a way to buff up the stats a little bit, it's not hard to swing through with Lulu and make sure she survives. Now, also keeping in mind, it's just our allies have been supported 3+ times, period. This has got to be one of the easiest level up conditions, right? So she doesn't need to see them. She doesn't need to be in play till later. And with all the cards we've seen so far, right, especially with Mountain Sojourner, you can just combo off these supports very, very easily. So Lulu should just always be able to get leveled up very, very easily. So with that, what does it do, right? So she gains both an attack and HP, which is really nice that she goes to 4 HP, right? We know how strong that is. And then at the start of the round, you get a fleeting help picks. And then also the support now grows to a 5/5, which is obviously it's an increase. It's better, but you kind of don't care about that anymore at that point. It's a way to keep growing it, which is nice that they've kept it. But this help picks is really where it's at, right? So it's again where we see that can't be cast in combat or in response to a spell. So it's that burst speed, right? You have to have priority to use it, but then you don't lose priority because it is a burst spell, which I think is very strong in its own right. So, and if you're interested in why they did this, the lead designer actually came out on Twitter, had a very long thread about the design choices, the pros and cons, like all that stuff. So I'll make sure to link that in the comments below if you want to read it. But they also confirm that it's only these 2 cards, meaning help picks and then gems, that have that kind of limitation on them, right? So help picks, what does it do? Give an ally barrier or enemy vulnerable this round. So this is just kind of insane, you know, overall. So not only are you able to kind of control the battlefield, which is more of like a Demacia flavor. So, right, just being able to have those barriers or, you know, pseudo challenge in a way where you're able to take their biggest threat and just, you know, throw it into one of your lower end minions you don't care about, has this like really strong, non-traditionally Ionia feel to it, which in my mind already makes Lulu a stronger value, right, than we expect. So super easy level up, makes your elusives hit for a good amount of damage, and her leveled up condition where you get help picks is very strong. Now, again, I'm not going to put this rated too high until we see more of her cards, because keep in mind, with the spoilers we have today, or yeah, I guess yesterday and today, I am 100% convinced there is a Taric card that we're missing. So what do I mean by that, right? If you think back to last spoiler season where we had Deep, meaning the Nautilus and Maokai deck, we didn't get Devourer of the Depths or whatever, one of the sea monsters we didn't actually end up getting until the full set was spoiled. So Lulu's deck is like very well refined. We see how the curve lines together. You're already in Ionia. You're going to have those different battle tricks like Twin Disciplines if you really want to. The Lulu side of this is very easy to put together. Makes sense. Great to see it. Taric, he's kind of missing like a key spell that he wants to have that you're, you know, always want to run as like a 3 of type of thing, right? Because he's going to copy whatever the last spell was casted on him to your ally. So maybe it's just going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, well, Spirit's Refuge is kind of already, the best thing that we could have access to. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not convinced. I think that there's going to be some very strong effect outside of the, I think Blessing of Targon is what it's called, right? The Grant +3/+3. I think there's going to be some other piece that we get for Taric that's really going to say, wow, he's really awesome as a card, right? So with the spoilers they are today, Lulu is definitely a league above Taric in my mind, but that's not to say that Taric's not going to have his own, spot in the deck. There's still other cards that we could see that will make him good, but I think it's going to take a little bit of work to get there. But Lulu, really just the queen of SMORC, right? We have this new 1, 2, 3 curve that works wonderful. All around, very solid card. And then we also have Lulu's Whimsy, which is getting actually really mixed reviews so far, based on just Twitter, Reddit, what have you. So it's a 4-cost burst, so nice, it can't be interacted to. Transform a follower into a 1/1 squirrel, which just means 1/1 vanilla, what have you, and silence it. So this does quite a few things, right? Now, the obvious limitation in this is that it is a silence effect, and it's only a follower. So why I call silence a limitation here is that if they have some kind of big body onto it, it's still going to have that, and that's where the polymorph side of it or the turn into 1/1 comes in handy. But you still have to do something about it, right? So it's only until the end of the turn. So it's nice that you can maybe, take only a point of damage. Maybe they buff it up with a Fury after the fact. Who knows, right? But if you don't answer it with a removal spell or something, it's going to pop right back to its other form. So it's nice that they added that, it doesn't have that last breath. Let's think about a Ladros, right? If it was only the silence part, it might be hard to kill it. If it was only the transform part, but then still had its last breath for whatever reason, they would still get the Ladros back. So it's really nice that they combine both aspects to this, but I really still see this card as a 1 to 2 of, as not a SMORC Lulu type of card, but more of just an Ionia control package, right? So this is where it's going to be different. In my mind, I think about this card in a Lux Karma deck where you have such heavy board presence, right? It's very easy to get Final Sparks where you can generate that free burn spell to then kill it. Where you want to make sure you have both challenger and removal spells to hit it, right? So if it's single combat, the various strike cards, stuff like that. You got to have some kind of more meaningful interaction. Now, of course, there's the other side of it too, where if your opponent just has a big they who endure, you can go, haha, gotcha, turn it into a 1/1, and then you just block it in combat and it dies, right? So I think this card is definitely above average in my mind. I've heard some people say it's actually unplayable, which is wild in my mind, but I could be wrong, right? This card, in terms of an impact in my mind, falls somewhere between a 4-cost Will of Ionia and a 5-cost Will of Ionia, because yes, it's a temporary fix, but you still have to do something with that 1/1, or it's just going to pop back up and it kind of hurts, right? Maybe the cute thing that you're doing is if your opponent has some big swing turn, you can polymorph their Neverglade Collector, so you don't take that 5 damage, whatever it is, from their units dying. But then again, it just comes back and you gotta do something else. So again, I think this card's really gonna shine in more Karma Lux, or just something that has Demacia. Fiora Shen, right, would be another good example. So you have Fiora that wants to kill stuff, and you can nullify their strongest effects, right? So especially if they try to go for you swing into one of their units, right? With Fiora, you want to tackle their 1/1s or their 1/2s, just generally weaker units, and they'll probably use a Fury of the North. Be I'm going to kill your Fiora. And then you go, boop. Nope, it's a small 1/1, and you can't do anything about it now. So I think that's kind of more where we need to be thinking about it than just Lulu being more SMORC focused, right? You don't have a lot of mana up all the time because you have to curve out so strongly, right? We have support cards 1 through 5 that we got to play. Having 4 spell mana is going to be difficult a lot of the times, but I think this card will find a home. Feels weird that it's attached to Lulu for what her card effect does, but then I get it because of, well, it's Lulu, right? So very interesting. I'm rating this card above average. I definitely think it's going to see some play. Again, more in those Fiora decks, Lux Karma. I'm sure there's other ones. Demacia is on the brain, right? Because you want to have Challenger, you want to have single combat. You need other ways to interact with it. This could also, in some crazy world, Karma Ezreal plays it as a one of, because you can just have that access to hard removal, like Static Shock and stuff. But the Karma Ezreal list is already so jam-packed full of stuff. I don't even know what I'd cut. So I think that's a lot about Lulu. Very strong card. Love to see it. It's absolutely going to see play. I personally don't like the curved stone style of, archetypes, but I get that it's going to be, pretty new player friendly, and that's always good for getting people into the game. And then I think that's like, it could also be that deck that helps them go from more just Bannerman, curve out, do stuff to, okay, now we're in Ionia, now we have some other like cool battle tricks we can do. And it's nice to see like the slightly different dynamics that we have between those, where it's all combat focused. Maybe now we finally have like some spells or barriers or other stuff that we can do. So all around, solid card. I love it. It's going to see play. 1/1 scroll token, not much to be said, right? It comes off the Lulu's Whimsy. That's all that it is. So it's just there as a placeholder. Then picks a 1-cost 0/1, and this one doesn't have Grant. So give my support ally +2/+1 this round. I sincerely hope this never sees play, because that means we're very desperate for support on a 1-drop, and that just feels awful. Doesn't have Elusive, right? Which would then arguably might actually make it playable, just because it wouldn't die in combat instantly. But giving +2/+1 for a single round, it's not great, right? There's like some really weird world where like you have this and Fleetwing, right? So you can just get that extra 2 damage. But no, I don't see this card making a splash anywhere. And if it does, we're in some real desperate hours where we just need more 1-drops to make sure we're curving out into our Lulu. Who knows? But right now I'm rating it like seriously a 1 out of 5, right? Like assuming like 0 to 5 scale, 1 out of 5. Just bury it. Hopefully it never sees play, but if we absolutely need it for some reason, then sure. So Fey Guide is another interesting one that is getting a lot of flack. So play grant an ally Elusive. So again, grant here meaning that they're going to gain that Elusive effect turn over turn. So it's not quite like Ghost or the maps, right? Because you think about spells versus a body, or if you think about the PNZ card that generates the map, right? That gives it 0 till end of turn. There's a lot of like interesting comparisons that can happen. But again, think of this more as what does it do for decks that are just trying to like fight for the board in the mid game, and the fact that it has a 3/3 body on it. So I wouldn't think of this card as just strictly, oh, give something elusive. Obviously, elusives are good, what have you, right? I definitely see this card as more of just like an interesting 1 or 2 cost choice where, who knows, let's say just Freljord Ionia, right? Just getting to elusive up, let's say a Hearthguard or just some big body, right? You just want something that can help you sneak past the kind of like mid-range roadblock that happens so often, where you just kind of stare at each other, you have a board of units, and you're like, well, how do I break this, right? Like, what cards do I have that give me that little bit? Now, Fey Guide gets you like halfway there, because it doesn't give you the full value of trying to make sure that you have the elusive unit that can attack turn after turn after turn, because then of course it's only a 3/3 body. It probably is just dying to whatever next unit your opponent plays, and or just straight up removal. So you have to make sure that your deck still can get value out of whatever you're granting elusive that isn't just dying in a single turn, right? Like, don't play this on something that dies to like a Mystic Shot or is very easy, efficient removal in that case. It needs to be on more of a mid-range beefy body type of thing. And, it's people have been pairing it together, right? So think about more things like the Swain deck, or if you just want to have Leviathan get through for that 5 damage. It's pretty tanky, so like it has Overwhelm. It doesn't need to really have elusive, but more of that stuff, right? Or if you're playing a Yasuo deck and you want to live the dream, put it out a Minotaur, right? So just some more like bigger bodies that don't want to be chump blocked. I definitely see this as more of enabler. Now again, from like an overall rating, it's definitely more mid-range for me, or I should say mid-tier, like a solid 2.5 or a 3 even in some cases. I like what it's doing, but I don't see it. It's not going to be like super meta defining. And if it is, right, so here's a huge disclaimer I'll add. If it is, it's just like, what's the most broken thing that we can give elusive to? Make sure that it always has elusive and just cheat some wins, right? Be it with like Rally, So we always see like Demacia, Ionia, Rally, OTK style of decks, and sure, maybe that's where this can come in handy, where you're suddenly your 4 or 5 or 6 drop of choice you might play, give an extra unit elusive, and then get Rally for the spell mana behind it, and just cheat in that huge swing of damage, right? So we'll see. I definitely like it. I definitely think that somebody will find a cheeky home for it. It's not going to go in every Ionia deck, but I definitely think it is going to see some level of play. And then the interesting one, right? So we have Startled Stomper, but if you look really close to it, and again, it hurts me that Riot is on break this week because I really wish we had more pixels. But if you look here, it's Targon, So it's not actually from Ionia. And there's a clip here that I'll play.
I like your nose. I wish mine was like that. What do stars
Right?
smell
So that's
like
Zoe.
to you?
It's super interesting that they kind of like snuck this in. And then, of course, if you look at it, there's a portal. So we know that Zoe is coming, or that is in this like next champion block. So I'm assuming then the next card that we're going to be getting is Zoe. I didn't go too far into it because I'm not much of a League person. I don't want to go through what feels like hundreds of voice lines to see where every single interaction is. But we know that it's most likely going to be a Targon champion next. So if we get some like portal and mischievous cards popping up, then maybe that's where it'll end up being. So who knows? But I think that is probably a decent guess. And then the other thing here about Startled Stomper is that it works very well with Lulu. Once she's leveled up, you make it a 5/5 overwhelm. That's just becomes a, in theory, right, 2-drop 5/5 overwhelm. That's fine. What's interesting here is like this is finally one of those cards where like everything leading up to this point has been support chain, support chain, support chain, support chain, and now finally Startled Stomper kind of breaks that cycle. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what this deck looks like when it's all finished, and it's not obviously just gonna be all support. There's gonna be some other units that you're gonna want to put in there that get value. So does Startled Stomper make the cut? I'm not sure, because obviously it's going to be more contingent on either directly having Lulu that's going to grant it a bonus every time, or in some cases, right, you might think of like Mount Sojourner, where it has to be at the end of the chain, because you want to have Sojourner, support, Startled Stomper, right, all the way at the end. So you could do like Mountain into the Fuzzy Caretaker, so that the Fuzzy Caretaker gets, what is it? Actually, it would get +2/+5, and then this card that it's on the other end gets +5/+3, right? So then suddenly you have a 7/6 overwhelm that's just coming down to punch your opponent in the face. And then, of course, at the end of that attack, it would be a 4/5 because that grant is a permanent buff again. So it can just keep growing turn after turn. So who knows? I'm really excited to like figuring out the puzzle of how all these fit together. But again, I'm not sold that it's going to be that Startled Stomper is going to be like an all-star per se, but if he has a home, it's going to be in this archetype. That I don't see anywhere else that he's going to really have a home besides maybe like in a Taric deck that's using the Blessing, right? So then you can give this +3/+3 permanent every single turn. But again, I think kind of as I mentioned up front, there's got to be a key Taric spell that we're missing. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I just know in my soul that on the 25th we're going to see one awesome Targon card for this archetype that wasn't spoiled yet. So we'll have to wait and see. And with that, that's Lulu. So tomorrow, again, another day, another set of spoilers. As long as they keep to the schedule, which we all are kind of leaning towards on now, we should get more Targon units, which is going to be super exciting because that should hopefully let us know what champion's coming next and kind of what they might be doing, right, from like a mechanic standpoint. So will we get a new keyword? Is it going to be just something that's like, oh, it's spell-driven and like play X amount of spells, get a reward type of thing? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So with that, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out a ton. Also, get a like and or share this with your friends. Get the hype out there. Set 3 is going to be super exciting for Legends of Runeterra. Just more people need to check out this game. I've been having a ton of fun with it, and you know, as long as I've been playing card games, it's just great. So, what did you think about the support archetype? Do you think Lulu's better or Taric? Or do you think that there might be even more to this, like maybe like a Taric Demacia deck that will come to light, right, in the future? Let me know in the comments below. But with that, I'm out here. Stay safe, my friends. Drink your water, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.